On day one of free agency this year, the Toronto Raptors completed two of their most important goals, including re-signing Chris Boucher as well as bringing back Thaddeus Young, both on reasonable contracts. However, there are still a lot of things that can be left to do, including re-signing some of our star guards like VanVleet or Trent Jr. There's a bunch of players still available in free agency that can fill some holes on the roster, and the Raptors could still potentially complete some of those trades that have been rumored over the past few weeks. So I'm going to dive into the moves the Raptors actually did make, who is still available out there on the open market, as well as is it still likely the Raptors make one of those blockbuster trades for a star center. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down day one of the Toronto Raptors free agency period, and this was a good day. This was a good day for the Toronto Raptors. Nothing crazy happened on the Raptors front. Obviously, rumors about Kevin Durant could potentially happen. I might make a whole video on that to see if that's even possible, but we're just getting to the most realistic, most straightforward news in this video here today, and we have to celebrate because the Toronto Raptors brought back Chris Boucher on a 3-year contract. This was huge for this team because going into free agency, we were sort of blind about what was going to happen with Chris Boucher. Obviously, there was reports about a potential VanVleet extension, Thaddeus Young likely to re-sign. We had those rumblings going to the deadline, and then the rest of it was filled with a lot of trade rumors, a lot of guys that we thought could potentially be Chris Boucher replacements if he was paid an exorbitant amount by another organization like Mo Bambas of the world and those types of players, Nick Claxtons and all that. But no, the Toronto Raptors were able to come to a very reasonable deal for Chris Boucher, and this was huge. This was a huge get for the Toronto Raptors. Got to play the balloons to in honor of Le Bloc Quebecois, Chris Boucher, the Canadian himself, coming back home, because we need Chris Boucher on this roster as currently constructed. He is one of the more undervalued pieces, I feel like, on this Toronto Raptors team because, yes, his game isn't the most orthodox by any means. The high range jump shot that's a high release but looks kind of like a slingshot, right? Not a crazy handle, can make questionable decisions at times. So some people are very low on Chris Boucher just because of his different style of play, but he gets it done for the Toronto Raptors, and he provides something off the bench that really no one else on this team provides, because currently you look at our bench unit, our bench rotation, it was not deep last season. With the exception of maybe Precious Achiuwa out there wasn't really any reliable guys we could count on to get buckets left, right, and center this season. Obviously, Thaddeus Young is a huge acquisition. I'm going to dive into him in the second part of this video, but Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa, when he's rolling, especially in the second half of the season, was really the only guy that came off our bench that could create shots for himself and not be a liability on defense. And that's a huge ask in the modern NBA. A guy that's as long as Chris Boucher, that's capable of knocking down threes at a high clip, that can finish in the paint. And yes, he's not a rim protector in the sense of a Rudy Gobert where he can match up against Joel Embiid's of the world night in, night out, but he's a phenomenal help side defender in terms of coming over and blocking shots. He's switchable. He can stay in front of guards if he's switched onto them out in the perimeter. So having, a 6'9" guy with that 7-foot plus wingspan, right, being switchable onto guards, being able to help over and get block shots, right, that is invaluable to this Toronto Raptors team, and it's a core piece of this bench unit. And without the Chris Boucher scoring, especially for a lot of times this season, we would have lost a lot more games. So Chris Boucher coming back, huge piece. And I don't even know if I mentioned, it was a 3-year contract for about $12 million per year. There's rumors that he might be making upwards of 15 to 20 million. I heard some of those reports and analytical models that were saying that was the price range he was going to get on the open market, but it wasn't so. We got him back on a contract that is affordable to the Toronto Raptors. I don't think it's like an underpay. I don't think it's an overpay. I think it's the right deal for Chris Boucher. I'm happy he's still in a Raptors uniform. So win-win for the Toronto Raptors, win-win for Chris Boucher, getting that long-term-ish money, but he's not locked in if he continues to grow as a player, and the Raptors keep an invaluable piece to their bench. So shout out to Chris Boucher. Very happy this deal was done. But this wasn't the only massive re-signing the Toronto Raptors had. They also brought back Thaddeus Young on an $8 million per year contract. So We heard some rumblings about Thaddeus Young coming back. Chatty Thaddeus Young coming back this off season, and the rumor was $5 million per year, and I thought that was a little bit low. I thought that was a steal for the Toronto Raptors if we brought him back on that reported that Jake Fisher brought up $5 million per year for 2 seasons, but it ended up being a little bit higher for Thaddeus Young. 2 years, $16 million, which I think is right. Same with Chris Boucher's contract. I think this is the perfect contract for Thaddeus Young. Again, Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa were our 2 main scorers off the bench, but really our facilitator off the bench became Thaddeus Young once he was acquired midway through the season. And I also want to bring up that trade that we made, the Goran Dragic Thaddeus Young trade that was brought up. You can see Dragic there in the corner, right? Thaddeus Young and the cornball Goran Dragic. That's a W now that we re-signed Thaddeus Young to the team. That trade is significantly considered a massive W. So I'm happy Thaddeus Young is back. Masai Ujiri I was joking about this in the live stream, Masai Ujiri saw that Thaddeus Young, Chris Boucher 2-man game, right? Thaddeus Young in the high post, throwing those backdoor cuts, threading the needle to Chris Boucher in the playoffs, and it seemed like our one unstoppable play. And he saw that play and said, no way we're letting either of these guys go. Their chemistry is too immaculate to separate. So I was, I'm thrilled. I've been a Thaddeus Young guy to the moon since we've acquired him. He's mobile, he hustles, he's a defender. There are questions. Some people were saying it's an overpay in our chat, but I don't think that's the case. He's a hustler. He's not a guy that his game is going to age that poorly because he doesn't get off the ground that much. He's not much of a dunker. He's more of a finesse, floaters, hustle, positioning guy. So he's definitely got some miles left in the gas tank for Thaddeus Young. And even if he struggles a little bit he's past his prime at this point. But even if he slows down a little bit, it's only $8 million per year on a 2-year deal. So this is still a W. If he falls off a cliff this season, he's an expiring contract at a very tradable contract next year. So W's all around for the Toronto Raptors signing this year. Shout out to Masai Ujiri not falling asleep at the wheel. So we love that. We were worried there for the first 5 minutes of free agency because deals were happening. Nothing was happening with the Toronto Raptors, but they got what they need to get done finished in the first, 20, 30 minutes of free agency. So huge dubs for the Toronto Raptors. But now let's get into the things the Toronto Raptors did not do. And we did not get a Fred VanVleet or a Gary Trent Jr. extension. Just yet. Now, the deal with Jalen Brunson going to the Knicks is confirmed. It's official. He's getting about $27 million per year, and I think that's a reasonable contract for Jalen Brunson. I know people just love to bash on the Knicks, but he's the 14th highest paid point guard in the league at this point, and that seems about right for Jalen Brunson. That's not even considering John Morant, LaMelo Ball, even a Fred VanVleet contract that's going to be coming up. So that's around the money you're going to have to pay for a guard at that level. And Fred VanVleet was an all-star this season. He was a guy that, before he went down with injury, was one of the upper echelon point guards in the NBA. And he deserves that back. And it was rumored that we're going to give him a contract that was roughly $27 to $30 million over the course of the next 4 years. And I really hope we do offer that to him. Because one, the cap space is going up. With the new TV contracts coming in, that cap is only going to extend. So if we wait longer and longer to give Fred VanVleet the bag, then we're going to have to pay more. It's just what's going to happen. And with the injury situation now, I think he'd be willing to sign. He'd be willing to pay that sort of deal that's, still a lot of money, but be a little bit safer rather than betting on himself and potentially making an extra $5 to $10 million per year, given the cap going up. I'd want to get that extension out of the way and see it, because we're seeing what guys like Brunson are getting now, and I will hold true. I think Fred VanVleet's a better player than Jalen Brunson, more established, should command a higher value in the free agent market, right? I think we need to secure, lock in our leader. He's so valuable to this Raptors team, and he's valuable as a point guard. And I know some people think that's controversial, but that's what I want. I want Fred VanVleet back, and not much has been made about the star boy, Gary Trent Jr. He's in a bit more of a questionable situation because he's in he's a free agent by the end of next season too. We gave him a contract last offseason, but 23-year-old scorer putting in close to 20 points per game, improved his defense this season. He's going to get paid as well. I would be very comfortable if the Toronto Raptors could just lock in these guys for this offseason. So I feel good about it. So I feel good going into next year, and then if we do need to shed some cap space, if we do need something, we at least have them in long-term deals that other organizations know that they can acquire. So I want Gary Trent Jr. I want Gary Trent Jr. re-signed. I'm also seeing tweets. No, nothing too crazy. Andre Drummond getting signed to the Bulls, but that's our topics on the contract extensions. I apologize. The tweets got to stay up on the night of free agency, but getting to that, which free agents are still available? Because we saw a lot of Toronto Raptors potential targets get signed up. One of them being obviously Mo Bamba, who a lot of Raptors fans have wanted for a very long time. After we drafted Koloko, I've said I'm out on even the potential of Mo Bamba. He ended up re-signing with the Orlando Magic for roughly $10-11 million per year. Chris Boucher is getting that same amount of money, right? I'm much more happy with Chris Boucher than a Mo Bamba. I was very high on potentially getting Lonnie Walker, who signed a very cheap contract with the LA Lakers, only $6 million. But again, he's not much of a three-point shooter, so it is what it is. I feel like he would have been a development project for the Raptors, but still, a great slasher, would have been a cool pickup for Toronto. Malik Monk ended up signing with the Kings on a pretty significant deal. So who's left? Who's left out there on the market? Now, the two guys that I made arguments for in my targets video this morning, Ricky Rubio, TJ Warren. They're still available. I think we could still get them on the cheap, but they're not the specifically guys people seem to be excited about. But TJ Warren, Ricky Rubio, I made the arguments for those two guys at the jump. I really, really would like to see those two players be brought in on the mid-level. We still have some cap space left after we've re-signed Thaddeus Young and Chris Boucher to reasonable contracts. Even if it's a one-year deal, take a flyer on the guys that are coming off with injury. Rubio be able to give that facilitating off the bench, and TJ Warren's given that potential. He was a bubble MVP candidate before the last time he played basketball, so if he can come back at 75% of his scoring ability, he'd be a great fit. But a couple guys that are out there fitting the positions that we want to see. One guy that surprisingly is in a narrative situation where I think might be able to leave his organization, which I didn't think necessarily could be the case starting today. It's Gary Payton II. Yeah, that's right. Former Raptors 905er, Gary Payton. He could potentially be gotten, I think, out there on the open market. And the reason I say this is the Golden State Warriors talk big about how they want to pay everyone, they want to bring everyone back, but I think they're seeing what guys are getting out there on the open market now and what their tax bill might be going forward. And I don't know if they're going to be able to throw $7, $10, $11, $12 million at a Gary Payton II, because look at what Anthony Simons just got for the Portland Trailblazers. He got upwards of $20, $25 million per year. That's a lot of money for a young guard that has still not put up crazy stats. Is that what they're going to give to Jordan Poole? Jordan Poole is an NBA champion, right? He's probably got more value out there in the open market than an Anthony Simons. So they're going to have to throw a bag to him. Andrew Wiggins is a guy I know they want to bring back. Obviously, defensive focus. He's up for extension as well coming this offseason. What are they going to give out to him? Kevon Looney's a guy they made it known they want to bring back. He's going to command what? Mo Bamba's making $10 million per year. Kevon Looney's up there. They just let Juan Toscano-Anderson go. Are they going to be able to fork all that money out to Gary Payton II? I don't know. They haven't signed anyone. They haven't made any extensions. They haven't done really much at all just yet. The Golden State Warriors haven't. So if he's available for market, obviously we have the connection for him with the 905. He'd be the perfect guy to bring off our bench that can guard anyone out there on the court, that can knock down threes, that can finish in the lane. He'd be the perfect acquisition for the Toronto Raptors. So he's a guy I think would be a very intriguing get, as well as Dante DiVincenzo for the Sacramento Kings right now. Obviously that situation fell out horribly, but he's a guy, not the craziest shooter, but can kind of slash, can defend. He's 6'4", again, a reliable piece out there on the bench. I think those two guys, with the exception of the two guys I made arguments for this morning with Rubio and TJ Warren, right? Those are the guys that I think still in free agency we could acquire. So those are the pieces I got my eyes looking out for. Let me know who you guys think the Toronto Raptors could still get. But the final topic is, are the Raptors better positioned to grab either an Ayton, a Podol, or a Rudy Gobert now at this point in free agency? And I think we are. I think we are if one of these deals go down. Now, if I had to be a betting man, which I'm not, even though we've sponsored a few betting things, I would bet at least one of these guys get moved. At least one. The number of rumors that have been thrown out there, Ayton doesn't want to be back. Apparently the situation is just not restorable there in Phoenix. The way Rudy Gobert, the Jazz, they kind of implode at the end of the season. I think there's a high potential he's going to go. And the way the Spurs are just throwing away players, I think one of these three guys are gettable. But now, you look at what happened over the course of this free agency day. The Brooklyn Nets were a team that was rumored to acquire one of these big name centers. They're not acquiring no big name centers unless it's in a Kevin Durant trade or something like that. Their team is completely imploded. They also said they have no interest in a DeAndre Ayton, so I think they're ruled out. The Detroit Pistons, they gave a lot of money to Marvin Bagley. They have Nerlens Noel on the squad there. They have some bigs that they're trying to develop. Kelly Olynyk is still on that roster. I don't think they're in a position to acquire one of these big name centers either. The Indiana Pacers, they could still potentially be out there, but they have not traded Miles Turner, so I think they're going to throw a bag at an Ayton, even though the odds are predicting that could still be high. And the Atlanta Hawks were another team that were rumored to be acquiring one of these teams, and they just traded for DeJounte Murray. And what are these teams going to take back a John Collins for Ayton or something like that? I'm not sure. Maybe they're still in play. The one team that I think could be more likely still in play is the Miles Bridges situation, where he is now arrested with a felony domestic abuse charge, right? Maybe the Hornets say, okay, let's just cut ourselves off from Miles Bridges and see if we can sign a DeAndre Ayton or something outright. Maybe they are back in play for one of these big name centers. Who really knows? But it's I think the tie, though, the positioning of the league, the way it went today, I think it makes it more likely the Toronto Raptors could acquire a Jakob Poeltl, a DeAndre Ayton, or a Rudy Gobert if they are so interested. But we'll see what ends up happening. We'll break down all the news as it comes out. So subscribe to Raptors Digest if you want the latest free agency news. Obviously, we break down everything, but we're in free agency period right now. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. Let me know what you guys thought of day one of free agency in the comment section below. Anyways, I'm signing off. Cheers.